Hello everyone, my name is Jack, and today we are going to be breaking down the best angles on Ascent's site to help you dominate on defense. From how to best lock down the site to dealing with split takes and how to best capitalize on flanking opportunities, this guide will help you unlock the best way to play the A-bomb site. And if you're serious about improving, then go to SkillCapped.com to unlock our hyper improvement system that will teach you how to win more gunfights, master your agent, and so much more. Backed by a rank improvement guarantee, you have nothing to lose. So come join over 500,000 satisfied members of SkillCapped, improve that KDA, and get the rank you've always wanted at SkillCapped.com, link in the description below. Jumping right into it, the first thing we need to look at is some important timings as well as what agents should you be playing for this role. To hold A is a very strictly anchor position on this map. A is very much a fortress, and rotating out isn't necessarily fast, and especially if you think you are going to lose the site, you are almost guaranteed to go down with the ship. To go with that, you want to favor defensive agents like Killjoy, Cypher, Brimstone, ooh, little fancy off-meta pick, Omen, but personally I think he's better in other parts of the map, but that's just my opinion. And before her 79th nerf, many teams used Raze to great effect as well. And yes, despite their recent nerfs, Killjoy and Cypher are still incredible on Ascent, don't be fooled by that. Anyways, how do timings factor into this equation? Well, as long as Peeker's advantage exists in this game, it's helpful to know your most common windows of attack. Obviously, in your average ranked game, people can attack at any time, but these timings are still useful on the whole. One of the most common things to do at the beginning of the round on defense is to peek through A main towards the attacker spawn for the early intel. The problem being that it's basically the most attacker favored angle on the map. Due to that peeker's advantage, it's easy for someone to just zoom around the corner and just doink you. So if you know that at the start of the round it takes about 3 seconds for attackers to peek into A main, then you can get yourself ready to try and take that fight. On the whole, this A main peek is super not in your favor, and what I recommend is to play this angle super tight and just watch for intel. You can even just look at your minimap if you really want to be super tight on that angle. Don't commit to fighting if someone peeks it, just take a pot shot and fall back. The worst thing you can do for your team is to die 3 seconds into the round because you just got rolled on by 17 breach flashes. It's not good. But what do you do if you don't see anyone? Well, for one, you should be careful because it could always be a weird timing push, but if you want to be ballsy and make a read, then you can push through A main and execute a mid flank. This is by far one of the most under-abused things on this map. Ascent is a very polarized map. Most people don't do fakes or complex strategies. It's very much simple side takes or splits. So when you identify the potential to flank, you should take it because it can blow apart attacks before it even happens. Moving on to the site, let's talk about what I consider the best spot to hold the site itself. The Radianite Boxes by far offer the best cover and the best potential angles to shut down the site. It's not easily shut down by smokes like Heaven or limited in its coverage like Generator. It also offers you a fallback position into Hell if you get pressured out by damage utility. First things first, let's talk about our other major timing. From the round start, it takes about 8 seconds for someone to shift walk from the attacker barrier to the entrance to the A site. This is good to consider, especially if you prefer to not take the early intel peek into main, as it again just gives you an idea on when you should be ready early on in the round. So what do the boxes offer us in terms of angles? Well, it gives you nice jiggle peeks into A main, but this is a very tough angle to contest as attackers will see your shoulder first. But it is great for some early intel. I prefer to play around the shallower angles to the left and right. You can cover on the left side near Cubby as attackers rush in, and then peek over to the right and cover the tree switch and tree room itself. Playing on site is really about causing as much disruption to the push as possible while your team rotates. To go with this, if you are getting pressured out by utility, then you can scurry back into Hell and at least have a last position to try and take a final pick before going down. One minor thing to mention is that while working on this guide, we discovered a small issue with the Radianite Boxes. Agents in Valorant are all the same height, but things like hairstyles or hats can actually change the total height of the character model without extending the hitbox. This means that oddly, agents like Jett, Sage, and Killjoy can actually be spotted behind the boxes by jump peeking from A main, but it's very slight. So slight that I genuinely believe in the heat of a game that people would struggle to pull it off, but it does bear noting. Our other downside is that the Radianite Boxes can be wallbanged, but it's very finicky, I would say. Basically, the boxes have two material, the green Radianite and the metal plates and edges. Any piece of metal is not wall bangable. but any piece of the green is. So keep that in mind. Metal safe, green not safe. Despite those issues, it's safe to say that the Boxes is a much better position than sitting behind the generator. This spot is very common, and it's bad, please stop. But in all seriousness, it just has the same issues as the Boxes, but with even more narrow cover, less favorable angles in terms of dealing with Peeker's advantage, and a distinct inability to retreat in a meaningful way. I really think Generator is only useful as a potential shakeup if you feel like the enemy team is pressuring you out of the Boxes position too early. It just isn't consistent enough to warrant you dedicating it as your main position. Similar to Generator, our next few positions are one-offs or to be used in low econ positions, the most common of which is the Cubby beside the ledge on the left side of A. Everybody has died to this, everybody has killed someone doing this. It's the rat corner, it's the yo, check out my sick judge ace bro, they never saw it coming corner. It's also the I can't believe they checked this corner after me sitting here for 5 consecutive rounds corner. It's great for abusing people who are too focused on sight, heaven, and tree but fail to clear all their corners. I don't use it often, but it's great to have in the back pocket in case of potential shenanigans. Alternatively, all you agents with movement abilities can just get on top of the ledge for an even more off-angly angle. I like to think that this is comparable to the Shroud Box on DE Cash in CSGO. The verticality and the tucking behind a corner create an easy place to go meat grinder on unsuspecting attackers. Also, it should go without saying that you should be checking these corners on your attacking side. I do it every time because I am paranoid as hell, and you should be as well. But that paranoia should never extend to what we lovingly call the trash boxes. These two literal plywood boxes are, to the surprise of nobody, terrible to stand behind and use as cover. Your gun sticks around the corner, they might as well be windows because they reduce basically no damage when wall banged. It's just bad. They're both bad, but at least the one on site you could potentially scurry to the boxes, but on heaven, that's just no man land. Might as well just wave the white flag if you get stuck behind there. Speaking on that scurrying away, while doing the clips for this video, we tested some alternative angles, mainly that in hell on the left side when looking in. It's possible to tuck deep enough into the corner that an attacker has to push all the way into hell to clear it. It's not uncommon to see people very lazily clear hell, so it could be a great way to snake a frag you otherwise wouldn't have gotten. The tuck is very simple, essentially just aim directly into the bricks and be as flat against the wall as possible. Moving on to our last major position for the A site, we have the Heaven Hold. Heaven should be reserved for operators and rotators from either Tree Room or B. It's not practical to hold with a rifle from round start because of the distance to A main. It puts a high burden of accuracy onto your shoulders, and to add on to that, Heaven is very commonly smoked off, meaning that it's hard to get off a full volley of shots. Whereas at least with an op, if you get smoked you have the option to hold your crosshair in the same place and take a guess shot that could net you that clean one-hit KO. Your other options when the Heaven Smoke comes down are to take the pot shot as we said, rotate the tree to support after. You could also hear the smoke coming out and leap off Heaven down into sight if you are a mad lad. Or you could take a little cheeky peek out the corner on the other side of the smoke and get the quick scoot and shoot going. The point being that Heaven is probably the most malleable position on a site. You're available for a quick rotate to tree, mid, or B, as well as the commit defense. The problem is that it's a position that should really only be taken by the operator, and it's debatable if the op could be placed in a better spot. Now, we've been talking a lot about the theory behind these positions of what could happen in a hypothetical sense, but it's infinitely more helpful to demonstrate this stuff in a real game environment. However, it can be hard to find specific examples from pro streams or tournament games, and one thing I personally wanted to show more of is how this stuff applies to the average levels of play. One thing we always have to keep in mind is that the inherent skill gap between us and the pros can make concepts harder to absorb into our personal playstyles because of that inherent difference. I was coaching an anonymous SkillCapped viewer during the production of this video and asked if they'd be willing to record their next Ascent ranked game. They said yes and provided us the following examples to go over. Keep in mind that our friend ranked at their highest Plat 3 last act and thus far has earned Gold 1 from this act's placements. All we ask from them is that they play some of the positions we recommended in this video, and see how they worked out. So let's jump right into the rounds and see how they got on. Our first round is the second half pistol, and the viewer is running Killjoy, also using an A setup that we gave them. It's an alarm bot plus nano swarm to hold tree control, plus a turret on the Cubby ledge with a nano to bolster the A main defense. The viewer is someone who struggles on their pistol rounds and usually doesn't take aggressive peeks on defense, but we wanted them to try the intel peek and see how it went. The round starts and they hear the footsteps coming in fast, call that the A hit is inbound, and fall back to the boxes. Now the viewer here does a simple mistake. Instead of jiggle peeking the boxes and playing slower, they swing and take the engagement into A main without using any of their utility to back them up. This leads to them getting spammed down before they could do anything meaningful in the round. Had they just peeked for info and then backed into cover and played slower, they could have had better impact for their team, which is something we should always keep in mind in our own play. Moving on to our first full buy example, the viewer is going to modify their approach slightly because of how fast the attackers have been playing in this match. The killjoy setup is the same, but once the round starts, they get the same early audio cue again for the rush. Instead of going to boxes though, they make the snap choice and go to generator to switch up their position on the attackers. Now, their teammate on Viper wasn't using comms this whole game apparently, and didn't communicate their setups, but their wall was definitely helpful to our viewer in this case. They know their spam angles through A main and can confidently dump a clip towards Wine to try and snag a free kill, which is what happens here. Now, like we said, generator is kind of a yikes position, and look at all of this utility that gets sent their way instantly. Shock darts, nano swarms, hot hands, the kitchen sink, a couple of breaches. I mean, those last two may not be true, but you get my point. Instead of going down with the ship, the viewer makes a clutch getaway to reposition into heaven to help the rotation support. From here, the attackers have hesitated on their push, and our viewer's team is able to essentially win the war of attrition despite their self-admitted stupid repeat into a killjoy turret. Nice one. Another small thing here I really like is that our friend sees their low health relative to their teammates and passes their Vandal to the higher health arena. That's just good teamwork, and you should always be aware of those kinds of possibilities when they present themselves. Moving on to our last round, I want to highlight a perfect mid-flank our viewer got. What the viewer told us is that the team they played against was very much playing full commit. If they started A, they went A. If they started B, they went B. So they felt they were able to flank quite frequently. As you can see here, they wait about 3 to 5 seconds on this A main hold to make sure someone isn't just walking, and then they slowly start creeping up. They're being careful until the intel of the enemy mid-presence is relayed to them. As soon as they understand that, they start moving faster. When they get to top mid, we've discussed this before in my pro strat books, but when you're behind an enemy who hasn't seen you yet, it's way too easy to just start popping off at the drop of the hat. But slowing down and maximizing your potential outcomes can pay huge dividends. I mean, just look how lost the Sova is after our viewer gets the one tap onto the Reyna. And I can only assume that the enemy wasn't communicating very well, as the Omen seriously had no idea about the flank, allowing them to get the huge 3-for-1 trade advantage in this round. Just well done. And remember, if you want to improve, win more gunfights, and get the rank you've always wanted, then check out SkillCapped.com, link in the description below. And that's all we have for today. Do you guys struggle with defending on Ascent? What do you want to learn more about on this map? Let us know in the comments down below. While you're down there, then make sure to like the video and subscribe as well for more premium guides like this with one goal in mind, helping you become a better player. We here at SkillCapped would like to thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.